Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Coffee Time with Masterminds.
My name is Peta Blakely, and I'm the founder and principal of Blakely Consulting.
Welcome to Coffee Time with Masterminds. I am Cynthia Rojas, founder and principal of To Your Growth.
Welcome to Coffee Time with Masterminds. I'm Rebecca Tuttle, founder and principal of Grant Right Now and Grant Writing for Good.
Good morning.
Oh my God, Peta, how are you?
Oh, glad to be back.
Yes. Welcome. That was fancy. We're going to talk about that intro in a minute. That was very fancy, but we want to welcome our viewers and welcome everybody to Coffee Time with Masterminds. We can't be more excited than we are today, right? Peta, are you excited?
I'm so excited. I think that's how you know your break was long enough, when you're really excited to come back. But let's talk about why we needed to take a break and some of the changes.
Yeah. So we thought that we'll use this show to catch up on what our summer has been like and some of the things that we've been doing. You just experienced one of them. We have a whole different intro. We have a new logo. We're going to talk about those things. But we also wanted to use this time to reflect on the past year and a half. This is our 62nd episode. That's 62. And when we first started, the three of us, Rebecca's not with us this week, but she will be joining us in the future.
I see her in the comments.
Oh, good morning, Rebecca. And so we got together because we honestly thought that the pandemic was going to be a 6-week thing and that we needed to do some adaptive change, and nonprofits really needed to look at things very differently, very fast, and then be able to execute. That 6 weeks, Peta, lasted like a year and a half, and
it went on a year and a half.
Yeah.
And I think that's an important part of the story, right? That the entire country, probably the entire world, thought we were hunkering down for a 6-week event. And it's become permanent, right?
Yeah. I mean, we went from thinking that we would help nonprofit leaders navigate during a crisis and then build a new way of working in a post-COVID world. What we are realizing is that, in fact, we have to learn how to live in a COVID-induced world. This is it. The Delta variant is telling us we're not going anywhere. And so it has changed the direction of the show. It has also impacted us personally. Why don't we start there? Let's start with, what has this done for us as individuals?
Well, I realized that I had not seen a client in real life in a year and a half.
Yep.
And it was fine. It was fine. In some ways, it was better. Meeting over Zoom, when it just became part of the culture and became automatic, I think we all realized it had some real opportunities for efficiency and for inclusiveness. And that separation of where you work versus where you are led a lot of people, and particularly my family, to think maybe we don't have to be here. And maybe we could live in places that are more conducive to some of our lifestyle goals and some of the other elements of our lives. And so I, along with, I think, half the country, have moved. We moved from Boston, Massachusetts to Richmond, Virginia.
That's awesome. Yeah. And why Virginia? And how has this improved your life already? It's been just a couple of months, right?
Yes, right. We moved in June, so we've been here just for the summer. Why Richmond? We were looking for a city with less snow and less cold weather, because in the last year and a half, like, all of the reasons that you live in a big city weren't really available, right? We weren't going to the theater. We weren't going out to dinner like we had before. But we were still contending with some of the stressors of the city, and some of them had really gotten worse. So we moved here for a city that reflected our values, right? Still had very liberal values and politics, but a warmer climate, and it's smaller, more manageable, very quiet, no traffic, so we can walk and ride our bikes everywhere. So yeah, it's been fantastic.
Well, I did see you post a picture on social media about your new bike, and
Yep.
I love everything about that picture. Just the idea of riding a bike to the grocery store and being able to put your bag in the back and just
Yeah, it's a great way to live.
in the breeze. Yeah, yeah. We have some comments.
Yeah.
All right.
It's so good to see you again, Renee.
Yeah. Hi, Renee. How are you? We missed you.
And
I can't wait to hear how Renee is doing. Okay. So someone from Facebook is saying, I miss you in Boston, yet your happiness matters and you are glowing. You and Cynthia have me realizing I need a break. Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
So Cynthia, you've been thinking about making a change too. Talk about that.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, although me, you, and Rebecca see each other through Zoom several times a week. I mean, we're working on a lot of things behind the scenes. What we didn't know is that we were actually planning to move also, that this was in our plans with my family, and that it wasn't until you mentioned that you were doing it that I was like, oh my God, I've been planning the same thing. And for almost the same reasons, when one of the reasons I went off on my own is because I wanted to travel the world and still be able to work. And so I went off on my own. I started my own business so I could be mobile. And then COVID hit 9 months into my plan. And I'm just not comfortable living in a foreign country right now, given, that I would have to negotiate or manage a new language, money exchange, all that stuff, and then understand their healthcare system. It just seems like a lot right now. So we are here. I live in Connecticut. Winters are very long, and COVID amplified that in a way that made it scream so loud. We are isolated.
When the only things you can do are, walking and hiking.
Yeah.
The weather and the quality of your outdoor spaces matters a whole lot.
Yeah. And we live next to a wonderful city, New Haven. But the winter was long. And one day over dinner, my husband and I asked each other, what are we doing here? And we decided that we want to live in a place that's a lot more touristy. So a little different from you, Peter. You are enjoying the quiet. I'm looking for more noise.
Yeah.
Right? So a little bit of urban living. We have this week landed on St. Petersburg, Florida. So far, that's been changing, but we have some flexibility there, and I can't wait to make it happen. I have visited a couple of different cities, and I am just loving how people live in warmer weather.
Right.
Like, you have more access to the outdoors. I look forward to going outside any day of the year and being able to take a walk.
Yeah.
Just because the weather's okay. And being in a tourist location usually means great restaurants. It does mean more people, but I do wear my mask. And it just means that I have the vibrancy of a city. Even though it's a small city, I still will feel more mobile. And that feels important.
I think these things were always important to us. It took the shock of the COVID era to bump people far enough out of their routines to question all of this stuff, right? I mean, there were a lot of things that people were just doing because they'd always done it and it was working for them. And then once nothing was working and we weren't doing any of the normal things, I think people really sat back and examined and said, where do I want to live? And they moved closer to family, or they moved closer to the activities that they wanted to do. It's really exciting.
It is. It is. And to be able to do that. And one of the good things, because I've been very honest at how the pandemic, I was one of those people. I thought 2 weeks max, 6 weeks, okay, we'll get it done. We'll be over this. I could do anything for a month and a half, and then it just wouldn't end. And that affected me, and it affected my mental health. And I really appreciate the fact that the whole world was on shelter in place or lockdown,
Yeah.
whatever you want to call it.
Whatever it was. Yeah.
We were locked up in our
Yes.
homes. And so this was good because it forced me to learn how to work from home.
Mhm.
And even if I wanted to, I couldn't go back anywhere, right? Even if I left my business and got another job, I still will be working from home. So it allowed me the space to get used to it. And now it's just like I'm totally used to it. Right. So that's been a good thing. But
I
it's
think
yep, go ahead.
different people, like to different extents working from home. And it's not that everybody wants to work from home, but I think everybody wants flexibility in where they work.
Yeah.
Right. And the new workplace is going to have to be responsive to that. They are going to, provide pods for people who want to go to the co-working locations, or they are going to provide equipment in your home for people who want to work at home. But this whole, you commute to our specific office 5 days a week for, just because we could keep the computers here. I think that era is over. I just don't think employers can compete.
Yeah.
That anymore.
Well, and so we could move into a little bit. I'm just writing something in the comments for those who are viewing live. If you want to let us know what have been some of the good things to come out of the pandemic, right? And so let's oh God, I lost my train of thought. I've been out of practice.
We're so out of practice. It's good.
Yeah. So, but there have been other things, right? I think if it was just the pandemic, as big as that is, for some reason, when you look at everything else that's happening, the pandemic actually feels a little bit more manageable. But we've also had other events happen, right? The death of George Floyd and others, Breonna Taylor and others, really shifted our nation. I mean, there's impact around the world, believe it or not, what's happening here. But our nation would never be the same because of that.
And I think that COVID created a social environment where that movement caught fire.
Yeah.
I think it's not for nothing that the protests of last year happened last year, right?
Yeah.
That momentum was there.
A point that doesn't get missed by me is, look, losing someone is always, always hard. But when good comes out of that loss, right, there is something peaceful about that. And while I never would have wished what happened, the fact is so much good has happened. And in everything we do, I feel like I continuously honor those who have died, right? And while I still feel for their families and it is unfair, no, that will never be the same as a nation because of the individuals who lost their lives. Yeah. And then this is not a show on politics, but we have been a country divided by its political leadership for the last 4 years, and our current political leadership is continuing to divide the country as well. And there are a lot of opinions about what's going on and what's happening around the world, and it's not easy because I was one of those people who thought that would end.
Yeah.
And so there are some issues there. So we're dealing with a lot. You mentioned climate change the other day. You want to talk about the weather?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Not that climate change wasn't a crisis already,
Right.
But there have been some events over the last year that I think have really brought the issue to everybody's doorstep. And I think that people are more aware and more concerned right now than they have been up till now.
Yeah.
And that's going to change how people organize their lives, how organizations organize themselves. It's going to have some implications for the economy. There are going to be some structural economic changes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I mean, I feel it just up north. We've had a rather cool summer.
yeah,
I don't feel now. My husband seems to debate this issue. He says, "You work in the house and the AC runs all day." He thinks I don't have the right to say that it's been a cool summer because he thinks it's because of my AC. No, I do go outside every once in a while, and it's been a cool summer.
yeah,
It's been a cool summer, and so that's when I feel it. And then when I go to other cities as I'm traveling to find where is the next place we're gonna land, the weather just seems so extreme. So it reminds me that we still have a lot to go.
yeah.
We have to fix it. We messed it up. We have to fix it.
So Coach Eb just said in the comments that during COVID, her brand transitioned from a vertical niche into a horizontal niche. That changed so much. So her business and her life have shifted into a phase, and she's really excited and happy about it.
I can't wait to hear what that is. What's a vertical niche versus a horizontal?
I mean, I know a little bit about Ebony's business, but Ebony, feel free to put a link in the comments if you want to tell other people about what you do. But she is a coach to entrepreneurs, and her business has just absolutely taken off
That's
in the last year. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about that because one of the things that one of the changes. So we just talked about the personal changes,
Yep.
but we're also going to have some changes to the show because we really had a couple of months to reflect, and we continue to meet every week and to talk about what is the value that the show can bring to our nonprofit leaders.
Yeah.
Right. There's no We are no longer operating from the framework of there's an urgency to adapt, right? This is our way of being, and it's going to be like this until who knows, right? We no longer have that time frame. The Delta variant has taught us that, and so there may be many other variants thereafter. And so,
do you remember like midsummer? Right.
uh-huh.
When we thought we were just taking a couple of weeks off, we actually planned a show like that's it. We're reopening.
Wow.
And I think we should talk about that a little bit because we got it wrong. Everybody got it wrong. But it was also like another national disappointment. And I think that's had mental health implications.
Yeah. So it's starting again. It feels almost like we've reset without moving forward. But just relive. So that has led us to set the direction for Coffee Time about continuing to support nonprofit leaders in this way of being. We no longer have a timeline. We are no longer thinking post COVID. We are no longer thinking, we're going to get through with this. We are thinking this is our new way of being. How do we show up in this new way?
Yeah.
So that's one of the shifts. So, with that said, Coffee Time is going to start opening with conversations about work because there's been a lot of talk. If you've been to a restaurant lately, you probably saw a sign somewhere that said we are short staffed, right? That's happening everywhere. If you've needed a contractor, right, they are booking out for weeks and weeks and months on end. And yet there's a conversation nationally about how people are not coming to work because they're collecting unemployment, and look at what we did to our workforce. We're going to bring some people on. Peter, you want to talk about a little bit? And we're going to have a series of conversations about what's happened to our workforce. And is that really true, Peter?
Yeah, I mean, over the next few weeks, we're going to be talking about what employers and what workers are thinking about and going through right now. We are going to be bringing on a labor economist to give us a big picture view of what's actually going on. And we're going to talk to some people who have stepped out of different fields and talk about why. So I think the workforce is fundamentally shifting, and it's scary and exciting. So.
Yeah. Someone just posted, these are important conversations. There's lack of clarity around this entire concept.
Yeah, such a lack of clarity. I mean, I think there is a system that we thought was working. It's sort of like healthcare in America. Like we weren't really focused on it until it got really broken. And now we're realizing that it doesn't work and that we probably have to build something new. And that's pretty scary for employers who had a business model based on the old system. So we're going to be talking with and to employers. How do you think about this? And what does it mean to hire people now?
Yeah. So if you are in the HR field, or you are someone who worked in an industry, the pandemic hit and you changed your direction, your professional direction, let us know through Facebook and we will reach out to you, because we want to hear from you why people are quote unquote not showing up for work. Because my theory is that things have changed. Employers had to make difficult decisions. They let people go, they shut down. And what people had to do was become very creative. And what we have seen is a hike in entrepreneurship. And people
we sure have.
Yeah.
We've seen a height in entrepreneurship. I think we've also seen there are a lot of people who I don't think they knew that they could use all that extra time, right? When we stopped driving to work and things like that, not that everybody had extra time. Some people are busy caring for loved ones and homeschooling their kids, and they're going to say, what extra time?
Right.
But some of us gained time and discovered all these other things that we enjoyed doing, right? I mean, remember the baking era when you couldn't get yeast because everybody was making their own bread, right? There's this nationwide crafting supplies because everybody is like discovering other new parts of their lives, creative outlets of their lives. And I think more than that, we realize they're important and we don't want to give them up. Right. And some of us are taking that kind of creativity and idea generation and the fact that you're on your computer all the time anyway. And there is a really interesting entrepreneurship movement going on right now.
Yeah. I love to talk to people who've just opened a business and get a sense of what inspired that. Yeah, and those are the conversations we want to have. So
if you've started a new business, definitely message us.
Yes, please do. So I am so excited by this next announcement. I'm gonna let you talk about it, and then we'll celebrate.
Okay. Well, over the last few weeks, you probably thought, gosh, how could I possibly hear Coffee Time now that Coffee Time is taking a break? We have a solution for you. You can listen to Coffee Time twice as often because we're syndicated. And you can listen to us on the radio out of Australia. So here's what you do. And not only will this let you hear us, but you can hear more Blakeleys talking because my dad runs this radio station and he has a really interesting show that he runs on current events, disaster planning and climate crisis and urban planning. So go to Ed Talks Radio. You can listen on your computer, or you can download the app, which will let you listen on your phone. And that's the Ed Talks app for iPhone or Android, and that'll be in the App Store. So that is really cool.
We're in Australia.
We're in
How
Australia.
cool is that? So tell us why Ed wanted our show on his radio station.
Um, because because he thinks, and I agree, there is not a lot of content that is specifically for leadership in the not-for-profit industry. And he really felt like there was an audience that wanted to participate in this conversation, and that we were bringing up topics that were interesting and timely to the field.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. No, I think first of all, I think it's great that he realized that there is not, these conversations aren't happening in different places. Talk about the privilege, right? To be able to host something like this, but also to live in a country where we can have these kind of outlets and listen. I've been listening to podcasts, and I'm like, oh my God, I love this. Right? Just listening to new ideas. So I think that's great. I am beyond excited because I'm like, I tell everybody that our show reaches Australia, and that if you can't catch us in the US, to listen to us on the radio.
Yeah, I think we're on we're on at two different time points.
We'll get those time points.
Radio. So one's for the American audience, one's for the Australian audience.
Yeah, no, we'll get those time points. But what's also exciting is that it makes our audience broader, wider, and this just keeps getting better. And we are constantly being told how much value we bring to other thought leaders, to leaders of nonprofits, and really either serve as an outlet for what they're going through, or as a place to gather some information, which then takes us to our next news. You know about that too?
No, go ahead.
So if you haven't noticed, we have a new logo. You will see it on the screen on the top right. And it is, do we have a actual picture of it, Peter?
A big one? Yeah. I don't think I have a big one handy.
Okay. Yeah. So if you see it on top, it looks like it's a circle. It says Coffee Time with Masterminds. If anybody has ever designed or hired somebody to design a logo, you realize how much time and how intense that process is, and things you never really think about. So I'll tell you a little bit about the logo. It is 3 people around a table. I thought that was brilliant, right? The colors represent diversity. Not that people are green, red, and yellow, but that that people are different and diverse, and that's a beautiful thing, and we celebrate it. The roundness also represents time, or a clock, right? Which is usually round, to represent coffee time. And then the 3 people that are in the circle are the 3 co-hosts. There you go.
There you go.
Yeah. And we fell in love with the color. Now, this logo was designed by AYM Advertising, and we'll be putting up her, there you go. Thank you, Peter. Yep. That is her website if you want to reach out to her. But it's so wonderful to talk to someone who gets us.
Yeah.
Right. And I think she chose the colors. I'm not too sure if we chose them, but we felt they were right on.
Yep.
And I think we did a couple of versions, but we didn't spend a lot of time. She really hit it out of the park.
I think she really got it.
Yeah.
She was a pleasure to work with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so why a new logo?
Why a new logo? Because the show had evolved. We made this logo when we made our original logo when we were first starting out, right? We did not entirely know what we were going to talk about or to whom. A year and a half later, we realized this is permanent. Let's give it a little bit of permanence in how we represent ourselves. And some of the some of the philosophies of our show were starting to emerge. We realized that there was information that we wanted to portray about what we value, that we wanted to have come through in our logo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. We're all grown up. I feel, one of the things I learned from you.
No, go ahead.
One of the things I've learned from you is that businesses have their own natural developmental process.
Yeah.
Right. And what's fascinating is that as an entrepreneur, you feel those moments where you need to break through and go into the next phase, go into the next developmental process. And the timing felt right. We felt like, well, we're moving on to Australia. We are more than welcome to be picked up by any other country who wants us. We are open to that. And it just felt like we're on to something. We have an audience. And
I think we're permanent.
Yeah.
Like you said, we thought we were doing this for 6 weeks, but I think we're doing it forever.
Yeah. Or at least until they listen. I do have a request for Ed. Ed, if you ever want to interview us live, you let us know.
Okay.
We'll get on that airplane.
We can do that. Well, technically we can't right now, but someday we will.
One day we will. That is my dream. That's the first thing I asked Peter. Is he going to want an interview with us? Because I will fly there.
Okay.
And that's it. That's it. That's our news. We have moved. We have moved our space. The show is now syndicated in Australia, and we're all grown up. And like Peter mentioned and said so beautifully, we're here forever. As long as you need us, we're here. All right. Well, I want to say thank you to
all
our
again.
viewers.
Thank you for joining us.
Rebecca, we missed you. We look forward to seeing you in the future. And Peter, are you going to play the jingle again?
Oh.
That's just the beginning, right?
I think I'll play us out.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Coffee Time with Masterminds.
My name is Peter Blakely, and I'm the founder and principal of Blakely Consulting.
Welcome to Coffee Time with Masterminds. I am Cynthia Rojas, founder and principal of To Your Growth.
Welcome to Coffee Time with Masterminds. I'm Rebecca Tuttle, founder and principal of Grant Right Now and Grant Writing for Good.
Good to see you, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.